today I have with me a very, very special guest, someone who has inspired me over this last year. I think I'm on my day 304 of running every day. And a big part of it, without him knowing about it for the longest time, is because of him, because I read his book and it was massively inspirational. So, welcome, Dharmendra. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Aniket.
As I mentioned, I read your book and I was massively inspired by it. And I've read about your journey and your foray into running. And I can't help but ask, did you always enjoy running? When did it start? How did it start? And when did you become kind of serious about it?
Well, I started long distance running only at Lucknow in 2001.
Yeah.
I was studying at IIM Lucknow, and I was playing football with absolutely no competence. I remained uniformly incompetent with sport. And basically, I ended up pulling my groin quite a lot, playing football because we didn't warm up. And then, I knew that if you just warm up a little bit, that will kind of go away. So I began running around our campus just to warm up for football. And then, eventually I realized that, I enjoyed running. Um, I can't say more than football because I still love football to this day. It's just that, I'm much better at running than I'm at football. So I decided to, keep doing that. And this was pretty late in life, right? I was already 23 by the time I started running.
Yeah.
And sometime within my first few months of starting to run, I was chatting with my brother who was at university in the US. And he mentioned something called the Cooper's test to me. And he asked me, have you heard of the Cooper's test? Because I told him my time that day for one loop of a campus, which was about 2,800 meters. And by just some coincidence, 12 minutes for 2,800 meters happens to be the Cooper's test for an above average time for that kind of age group.
Yeah.
And he asked me that with the intent that, do you know that your time's pretty above average or at least average?
Yeah.
So that, got me hooked. I said, oh, this is very interesting. And I kept trying to improve on that time, although it takes quite a lot of effort to improve by even a few seconds for that kind of distance. Yeah, and since I got hooked, then I started running, 3 loops of campus, 2 loops of campus, and so on. And I, trying to hang on to that 12 minutes for 2,800 meters kind of norm.
Yeah.
And I guess, eventually once endorphins hit, it's very difficult to kind of shake it off. Yeah, I've been running since.
Yeah. I was just going to ask that, as in, I'm sure, and I know that you have run, and we'll come to that later, but you've run some very prestigious marathons, and I'm sure you would have competed in a lot of races. But where does the, joy of running, the joy that you derive out of running kind of stem from? What's the earliest memory of that? Because again, when you mentioned Lucknow and you very nonchalantly mentioned running 2,800 meters in 12 minutes, a lot of people wouldn't manage to. So I'm sure you were running before that as well. And how did that come about?
Yeah, not really. Actually, I have really poor hand-eye coordination. I wasn't good at any ball games, including cricket, which is the most popular game in India.
Yeah.
And but I played some football, so I never really trained for anything. The only memory I have of running anything considerable, say at least up to a kilometer, is when in class 8 we had to go for a trek through the Himalayas. This was through a club at my school. And in order to be fit for that, our team leads for that expedition had said that we need to run a loop of Lal Bagh, which is a very large park in Bangalore. It's a botanical garden also.
Yeah.
And we used to run like a loop. It's probably about 3 to 4 kilometers, depending on the loop you take. And it's changed a little bit in the last 30 years. So we used to do a loop of that. I don't remember being particularly fast or very fit as a kid. I was always overweight as a kid.
Yeah.
So I had no particular competence or interest or abilities. All of these things were lacking. I looked at running just as, a fellow quizzer, most of my interest in running was just from the trivial aspect of it, pretty much. Yeah. So no early interest. You could say that I really started running at the age of 23. I have run before, but never more than 3 times a week, right? Ever through life. But
Yeah.
from 2001 till date, I've run
Yeah.
right through, except for a few weeks of break which are planned.
So when you say you've run pretty much throughout, you mean say you would run 3 or 4 times a week? How does that work out now,
Yeah.
especially?
So my training's changed a little bit over the years.
Yeah.
Between 2001 and 2011, I
Yeah.
mostly an amateur runner. I mean, you could say I'm
Okay.
still an amateur runner. What I
Yeah.
meant is my interest was that of somebody who had a day job.
Yeah.
So I just ran just to kind of improve and get better, with every passing year. So to put it in perspective, in 2004,
Yeah.
I ran a half marathon in Mumbai and it ran well over 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you,
so something like 2:37 or something. I still have the time somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that wasn't such a big deal, right? It was
Yeah.
incidentally the first time I've gone over 8.5 kilometers. I just
Yeah.
went to the event,
Yeah.
fairly bizarre experience.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up in time, just turned up at the venue and somehow managed to get a bib and run. But
Yeah.
this was the first year of the event, so you got some leeway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once I did that between 2004 and 2011, I kept improving pretty much with
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
2007 in particular was a good year because I ran a full marathon pretty close to 4 hours in
Yeah.
in a race which is organized in very near Bangalore.
Yeah.
But then, my full marathon times were pretty poor till
Yeah.
2011.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in 2011, I took a sabbatical from work
Yeah.
and I was in the US for about 5 months.
Yeah.
And then I trained with a really good coach.
Yeah.
He's a world-class coach. I mean,
True.
that made a huge difference. And I
Yeah.
went, straight from reasonably ordinary to slightly better than ordinary. I mean, still, so I went from basically 4 hours or so for the marathon to about 3 hours, 10 minutes, which was the
Yeah.
aim
Yeah.
of doing all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is when I got like super serious. You could say till about 2007, I was
Yeah.
like, I want to get to this time, but I don't want to kill myself, if I didn't get to it. I wasn't too fussed about it. But 2010, I wanted to actually take my sabbatical,
Yeah.
but I had to have emergency appendectomy. So,
Yeah.
so I had to defer my plans by about a year. But
Yeah.
2011 onwards, I've been very serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now
Yeah.
I'm again not so serious because I have a young kid, so I'm
Yeah.
back to being like a very interested runner.
Yeah.
But running is not like the number one thing in life.
Yeah. Sure. One, that improvement that you just mentioned, 50 minutes is massive, man. As in, I mean, I'm sure you'd acknowledge it as well that improving 50 minutes of your time is just phenomenal. So that's just massively aspiring, as in and inspiring in equal parts. I
Yeah,
have
and
a
it just
bigger,
happened in a span of like 14 weeks, the
yeah.
entire improvement.
So I completely believe you when you say that the coach was phenomenal, because that's just unheard of someone just sweeping aside 50 minutes from his previous best. So that's massive. But I have a question over here, and that's something that people like us, people who have regular day jobs, and I'm assuming you had a more away from sports day job than say I do, because I work in sports, isn't it? At least I'm connected in some way or the other with sport. But to have a day job and and you graduated from IIM Lucknow, you I'm assuming had a job which had very little to do with sports or running for that matter. But how big was the jump, to go to the US, train for a particular goal that you had set in your mind, and then follow it up, then pursue it basically?
Yeah. So I was a management consultant. I was a manager at KPMG.
Yeah.
It was, the further I move away from it, it seems more remarkable because I don't have the courage to do anything so big now.
Yeah.
I was unmarried at that point and had money in the bank. So, the typical constraints which kind of may hold you back from taking big jumps weren't there.
Yeah.
And honestly, even when I came back from my sabbatical, I had, I wasn't particular about quitting my job. So
Yeah.
while taking the sabbatical, it was just that, right? It was like a very long vacation, you
Yeah.
could say.
Yeah.
And It was huge. I mean, it was unpaid leave, right?
Yeah.
But my
Yeah.
employer was generous. It was 5 months off.
Yeah.
It wasn't really much of a sabbatical policy till that point. It wasn't
Yeah.
very common, and who wanted to be, unpaid for like 5 months? It was
True.
excellent money, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, part of it is personality, and you could say part of it is just impulse. I was
Yeah.
very intent. I actually didn't see other possibilities.
Yeah.
That you could. I mean, if you told me today, see, you could. There are enough people now who are making the mark and running well under 3 hours 10 minutes and
Yeah.
keeping very demanding jobs. But at
Yeah.
that point in time, the number of Indians who are amateur Indians, right, or
Yeah.
professional Indians for that matter,
Yeah.
who had run in Boston was very low. It
True.
was in single digits, right?
True. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the number is so small that I know all of them.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't think of it as a big deal. I actually
Okay.
was very excited about it. And so were
Yeah.
my colleagues. My employer then, KPMG was super supportive. Everybody was
Yeah.
like up for it. A lot of people, would write in. Remember, WhatsApp wasn't this big then, right? So
True.
everybody was
Yeah.
still on email. So people would
Yeah.
mail and check, how
Yeah.
is this going and how are you
Yeah.
doing and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Facebook was there, obviously. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so they were very excited. I was
Yeah.
more excited and looking at it like an adventure than anything else.
Yeah.
I wasn't on the path that I am now.
Yeah. Yeah. And because you also mentioned running into the 2004 Mumbai half marathon, and
Yeah.
the idea of running a race, and I mean that's something that I always kind of refer to when I'm talked about running. I know that in a race I would definitely run faster because I was a very athletic kid to begin with, and my times would seriously improve in the annual sports meet because there were people who were in attendance, who were cheering you on, who were basically looking at you. So how is this? And I used to derive a lot of inspiration from people who were running with me. So did that happen to you as well? Was it? I'm sure it was a different experience, but was it a more uplifting kind of an environment to run with other people?
Yeah. So the thing is, when I started running, there's this very popular automotive analogy that a lot of coaches like to use. There is the cardiovascular, part of running and the
Yeah.
musculoskeletal part of running, right? So basically
Yeah.
you have the engine, so to say, and then you have the chassis. In my case, and there's of course the mind, right, which is like your
Yeah.
microprocessor unit if you think of automobiles now.
Yeah.
Right. My mind was always well ahead of both of these things. My body
Yeah.
wasn't ready. I continued to be overweight, if you can believe it, even
Yeah.
in 2011 Jan, right? I
Yeah.
ran 2011 Jan Bombay in about 4 or 5 or so. So what I'm saying is I'm not quite sure whether my performances in races were significantly better. Mostly because I didn't really have benchmarks in training. Training wasn't that serious. Like you didn't run time trials at every step to kind of recalibrate and so on. Training was
Yeah.
very what should I say? Very ordinary, not very
True.
sophisticated.
It wasn't very
Um,
targeted, if that's the
yeah,
right
it
word to
wasn't very
use.
targeted. Like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
run like a half marathon in say 1 hour 45.
Yeah.
I'm looking at just going under 4 hours for a marathon. Nothing of that
Yeah.
sort, right?
Yeah.
We just went
Yeah.
all out for like 3 hours to see, how much you could run. And you knew
Yeah.
you would run somewhere around 4 hours in Bombay. I
Yeah.
pretty much tanked in every race at Bombay,
Yeah.
which was like, like the annual race for us. But the
Yeah.
thing was, the bigger thing was that you felt like you were in a public celebration, right?
Yeah.
You turn up at Bombay on the Bombay Marathon day,
Yeah.
and it felt like you're in first day first show of some big movie, right?
Yeah.
And you're in
Yeah.
the movie.
Yeah.
So for a lot of us then, more than being competitive, it was like really entertainment.
Yeah.
I mean, we were
Yeah.
running hard, all right, we were suffering and all that, especially in the last hour or so.
Yeah.
But it just felt like you were having some outrageous amount of fun,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
could see from our faces, right? Quite a few of
Yeah.
us would be gutted by end of the day, especially guys who come from Bangalore to run in Bombay. There's a huge change in humidity and temperature.
Yeah.
But all of us were really super happy. And because
Yeah.
the number of people running was so low, right? You knew
Yeah.
most people, right? Like the first year of full marathon had
Yeah.
less than 2 pages of results. There are probably less
Okay.
than 100 people finished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So even in the second year that I ran, there were less than
yeah,
200 people or about 200 people who finished the race. So you knew everybody. So like I said, it just felt like, I mean, I'm using movie, but it could be like an amusement park. Like you had
yeah,
just one wild ride for about 4 hours.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, and the other side of it, which also kind of comes to my mind often when I see these races, and I remember very clearly that when the uh, Mumbai race started back in the day, if I'm not wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong over here, but you used to run parallelly with the top runners as well, the international ones who'd be running in a lot, as in faster time basically. Did that happen? One, and was it
Yeah,
intimidating to
yeah.
see them go, as in where you were basically jogging to begin with compared to them?
Yeah, I think for the first 2 years, the starts were simultaneous.
Okay.
So, Hendrik Ramola, John Kelly and all, right? Ramola, I think,
Yeah,
won the first 2 years, the South
yeah,
African runner. They
yes.
were just like a few meters ahead of you. So
Okay.
at least till you got to Marine Drive, right? You got like a
Yeah,
really good look at them.
yeah, yeah.
And if you were the interested sort, right, you could actually come before the race, like half an hour, 45 minutes before the race. They were actually warming up on Seaface.
True, true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we would see them. So that was a real joy to watch. Now they've
yeah,
separated them by over 2 hours, which kind of takes away some of the attraction of the event.
yeah,
Yeah, but see, you're intimidated if you think you have some reasonable chance of being in the same ballpark, right?
true.
Like if
Yeah,
you're playing tennis, and even if you're playing an exhibition match with Federer or something, right?
yeah. You should.
Then
Yeah,
you might be awed by the occasion. See, but
yeah,
it is very clear that those guys were in a different world altogether. Even then, right?
yeah,
Knowing
yeah,
what I know now, like 17 years down the line,
yeah.
uh, it doesn't change much, right? Like John Kelly
True.
ran Bombay in what 210, 211,
Yeah,
and long ago, and starting at 7:40, right? We would start 2 hours before and still not
yeah.
manage what they managed.
True.
Yeah. I don't think we ever felt we were comparable. They
Yeah,
basically, you just looked at them and said, "This is beautiful.
yeah,
Savor the moment,"
yeah.
and pretty much as good as any television viewer, except that you have a better view of the race.
Yeah. Better view of the
Yeah,
race. Yeah.
yeah.
And
So
moving
yeah, no
forward.
intimidation really. I mean, just
True.
mostly fascination and appreciation.
Yeah. So you talked about moving to the US, training, and I'm sure you would have run races over there as well. And
Yes,
I'm
yeah, loads of
assuming
them.
some,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm assuming some of those races were, ones in which you were trying to say set a particular time or meet a particular mark. And you had other people who were perhaps running at the same speed or slightly faster. Did that help you as well? Did you talk to a lot of more people who were perhaps running at a better level than you had people running in India for that matter? And how did that, inspire you or influence you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's actually quite a good question, because it shows the levels through which I've come through, right? So when I
Yeah,
started, right, I couldn't even run like a 10K in say 40 minutes or so.
yeah,
And if you're running 10K in about 40 minutes, you're in the ballpark to run 3 hours 10 minutes for a marathon. Okay,
yeah,
which was the norm for my group in Boston.
yeah,
So incidentally, my coach is very clever, right? Without
yeah.
kind of telling me the intent, he got me to pace a couple of races where we were the pacers for the 310 group, but we ran
Okay,
only half the race, and
okay,
another team of pacers took over from us at halfway.
okay,
So I actually went through half marathon at 310 pace.
okay, okay.
So I knew that I could do that, and it wasn't such a big deal after I'd done enough training, of course.
Yeah,
So I had kind of lived through that experience, and
yeah,
because you're not running the entire event, right? You can do a
yeah,
little bit of conversation and not burn energy. So you would
yeah,
talk to those people, and qualifying for Boston, especially in the US. Definitely, it's a big thing globally to kind of make that kind of norm, right? Even if you aren't running the actual event, but in the
yeah,
US, even races with about 200 people, there will be
yeah,
always someone trying to qualify for Boston. So the people wear t-shirts which very
yeah,
typically say something like Boston or bust,
yeah,
and so on. Or they'll have
yeah,
family members holding banners to that
yeah,
effect.
yeah,
So you could talk to the people you are pacing,
yeah,
and uh, see what they've kind of done, where they've prepared. Like very typically, it is not indecent question to ask a runner, what kind of weight are you at, right?
yeah, yeah,
Racing weight, and how many miles have you done
yeah,
in
yeah,
training. And like, for example, have you done a 10 miler at say 70 minutes? Have you done like a 20 miler in 140 minutes? So you kind of know what kind of homework people have done to get there. It's not very different from, if you were in school, right? You would ask people if you're taking board exams, how many previous years board papers you have solved, right?
True.
Sort of like that. Yeah, so you get a good sense, but you also get the mental makeup for, these things. Some people are very forthcoming, right? They'll tell you how many times they've tried to make Boston and not made.
Yeah.
So you also get to kind of temper your ambition or calibrate and say, I'm here. Like if you run a half marathon in 90 minutes, right, in practice, you know that 310 is not that far off.
True.
For a full marathon.
True. Yeah. Because you mentioned Boston so many times, and I know that you qualified for Boston and eventually ran the Boston Marathon, which is massive, guys. For everyone watching this, if you haven't read up enough about it, it is massive to qualify for the Boston Marathon and then eventually run it. Talk us through that day. I mean, how was that day, and how was it overwhelming to begin with? And I mean, do you still savor the moment?
It's very transformative, despite the fair amount of struggle I went to get there. So just to give perspective for people who might be listening, right? The average finishing time in Bombay for the full marathon, right, is in the range of about 4.5 hours to 4:40. Okay. Like every year they'll publish results. You get a good sense of amongst 5,000 runners, the finishing time is thereabout. The average finishing time in Boston is about 3 hours 40 minutes. For 26,000 runners. So that gives like a good sense of where Boston is placed in terms of finish time. It is by far the fastest mass participation marathon. That is just about Boston. So I'll tell you about my qualifying race. Right, I went to a race which was net downhill, and I had already spent 3.5 years, getting that stage. And being so I'd made the norm twice before that, but it wasn't enough to make the actual cutoff. So the day I qualified, I beat my age group norm by something like 6 minutes. Thereabouts, a little over 5.5 minutes. It was a very small race in California near Santa Barbara. It's called the Mountains to Beach Marathon. We had pacers right through. The entire race is paced by guys who run about 2:40 for the marathon before. So you have absolute confidence that you can pull this off. When I finished the race, I was quiet for almost a couple of hours. I made a couple of calls to family, but I was in a daze and massive amount of general peace in life for about 2 hours. So to me, that was actually
and what year was this? Sorry,
so I qualified in 2014. 2014,
which is 3 years after you went to the US to train, right?
3.5 years. I remember every month from Jan 2011 to May 2014, and I ran the race in 2015 April.
Okay. So talk us to the race day.
So the actual race day was I sort of an anticlimax. The days, the thing about Boston, right? It's like remember earlier I mentioned this amusement park analogy, right? Like everything is a site. Boston has like a 3+ day expo, and you get to meet previous Olympic gold medalists, Olympic silver medalists, all Olympic medalists in various running events, not just in the marathon. And then you meet people who won Boston several times. You meet people who won New York several times, right? So actually 8 days before Boston, I'm mentioning this is not directly relevant to Boston, but one of the legends of Boston and New York is this lady called Joan Benoit Samuelson, who won the inaugural women's.
Yes, 1984. I've met Joan Benoit, in fact. So she's phenomenal.
So there's a traditional tune-up race to Boston called the Cherry Blossom Classic in Washington DC. Right. So I was actually staying in New Jersey and training for this, and then I went to Boston like few days before the race. She ran the same event, and she was at a book signing at the expo for Cherry Blossom. I met her there, and I told her what I was doing, and she talked to me like she's my aunt or something. Great amount of affection, and she asked me what time you're targeting, and I met her after the race. We were about 7 seconds apart in the 10 miler. And she told me I'm planning to go very safe, so not hammer myself. So I thought, we are 7 seconds apart. I should aim for what she's aiming at Boston, right?
Yeah.
And on race day, she ran under 3 hours.
Okay.
And then she went, she hammered at Boston.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was at the limit of my capability before that.
Yeah.
And you could see what, true pros do, right? They really
True.
hammer only when necessary. What you were saying of doing really well on race day,
Yeah.
that didn't happen. It rained for the first 90 minutes.
Okay.
I was, completely overawed. I got to meet Bill Rogers at the expo. I got to meet Amby Burfoot, who's the editor of Runner's World for years, and this 1968 winner of Boston, right? So all of these are legends.
Yeah.
So I was like mostly agape through 3 days leading up to Boston. On race day, it just rained in the morning. Quite literally, we were shivering for about the first 90 minutes.
Yeah.
That was very hard. I mean, physically, it was really bad.
Yeah.
And because, I went in trying to run Boston about 3 or 5. I was in great shape. First half went on pace. Yeah. But because it rained, one of my legs began to cramp. Actually, my quadricep began to throb, so I kind of tanked my race. So I finished in about 3:18. Okay. But except for the timing part, the race was as good as anything else, right? So for people who don't know Boston, at roughly halfway, for about a mile, the girls from Wellesley College who cheered runners at Boston for 4 or 5 decades. Right? It's a tradition. Yeah. They turn up and you can hear them from mile 12. Okay. And you see them only at around mile 13. It's like a full tunnel of these college-going girls who just screaming at everyone who passes by and cheering them on. So everybody is 13th mile, unless you're a pro, is their fastest mile. You have so much adrenaline in your system. So the race was great. I mean, I wish it had been better. It's not the sort of thing that it's not the sort of finish I wanted. But except for the finish time, everything else was great. I got to meet the director of the Boston Marathon, who's himself, quite a legendary runner, David McGillivray. And he was damn sweet. I got him to sign books. So I got all of these people to sign books, right? I got Bill Rogers to sign his book. I got Amby to sign his book. I got Joan Benoit to sign my bib from Cherry Blossom. So complete fanboy trip. It's just so it's more of a fanboy at Boston than anything else. Complete tourist experience.
I'm sure it sounds amazing just to hear about it. So if you had to list down the best marathons that you've run, and what would these be?
So Boston, just simply for the heritage, right?
It's
just
And I don't mean with respect to timings, by the way. I just mean
I just meant just for tradition, right? The sheer respect for athletes in Boston is really something else. I guess I haven't run New York and London because I'm kind of saving them up to make them each a memory, right? Whenever I do them, it'll be like tourist trips. But it's just sheer respect for runners is something else. If you're wearing a medal from Boston and you're on the subway in Boston, people look at you with some sense of wonder. And despite the fact that Boston's it's got enough runners. I like to say this, right? There's a prof at MIT who's won a Nobel Prize in physics. And he's run a sub-3 marathon.
Oh, okay.
Right? So, I mean, obviously, even for Boston, that's like a big deal to win a Nobel and do this. True. But I'm saying the average guy in Boston is, very interested in running, and it's a great tradition. I mean, 127 years, right? So, fantastic tradition. So, Boston's definitely number one in terms of heritage and, I mean, general speed, right? Also, and then it's great to watch fast competitive racing.
True.
So Boston for sure. And I guess for sentimental reasons, Bombay now, because it's India's number one marathon by far. There's nothing that comes close. Also because I've run in every year of the event since it started. So great attachment for the race. There's one race which is run along the Kaveri trail. It's called the Kaveri Trail Marathon. It's one of the first events I ran in 2007. It's a trail marathon and it runs along a canal which joins the Kaveri River, which is very close to Mysore. I have fondness for it because it's organized by the club. I used to be a member of Runners for Life, which is a Bangalore-based organization, which is one of the pioneers in organizing running events for people like us.
Yeah.
So then there's Big Sur in California. Big Sur is along the Pacific coast for practically the entire, I guess for maybe 20 miles of the 26 miles or more. You have the Pacific Ocean to your left, right?
Okay.
And the view is just spectacular. And at mile 9, there is a person playing the grand piano. So, and you may have already seen, pictures from the race, right? There's a bridge, and this guy is sitting and playing the piano, and then you have the Pacific Ocean to one side. It's just very beautiful. So Big Sur, Boston,
Bombay,
this Kaveri Trail. And then I guess it's just a matter of personal taste, right? I've run in Berlin. Berlin is the fastest course I've run in so far. There's also I've run a race in Sacramento, but Sacramento is 10,000 runners. And it's usually done in December. It's a very hard competitive race, and a lot of people use it to qualify for Boston. So most of the races I picked, are for this. A race called Grandma's Marathon, which is it's run along Lake Superior. So you have Lake Superior to your left all through the race. Just, and I guess for most humans, right? And Lake Superior is so big, it looks like the sea, right? I mean, you basically can't tell it's a lake. And seeing so much water and that blue shade just calms you for the entire race, right? Whatever mode you might be in. So I guess Grandma's race is one really nice memory, and it's in a very cold part of the US. It's in Duluth, Minnesota. So the first race I ran, right, when I ran sub 310, it's called the Avenue of the Giants. It's in Northern California. It's run in the shade of the redwood trees. Right. And so for about 24 miles of 26.2, you are running in shade of the redwoods, and those things are like a few hundred years old, right? So physically you're dwarfed by them anyways, but the fact that they're so old and have been on Earth much longer than even your grandparents have been, that is definitely humbling. And it's a 600 people race.
I mean, when you run, does it also kind of because it helps me really. I remember once going to this tiny little village in Germany, and a friend of mine and I decided to just casually run. And I think we must have ran 20-25 kilometers, but it was one single track with windmills on both sides. And it was around dusk, so it looked picturesque. So is that soothing as well for you to see something, just that grand and that picturesque around you while you're running?
Yeah. And, it's one of those things, right? I ran pretty much most of the race in silence, right? Once in a while, I've talked to one of my fellow runners. For the first 6 miles, I had my coach for company. Then I had another runner finish with me at Avenue of the Giants. You won't believe this. It's a 600 people race. It did its 40th edition in 2011, which means it's close to its 50th edition now, this coming year, 2021, right? See, as it is, such, views of nature are very, mind-blowing, right? You move to silence. And running to me is like a fairly spiritual experience. Right. And so the combination is just out of the world. I definitely prefer to run on trails any given day. This is the next best thing to that, right? You're running on the road, but it's a small race, right? And you have most of the road to yourself. And, at certain paces, you won't see anybody for at least half a mile on either side. Right? Like the really fast runners are so far ahead of you. And everybody else is in that, zone of kind of uncertainty. I mean, running in nature is nothing like it.
You mentioned, and I have to pick on those 2 points over here. You mentioned that one, running is a spiritual experience, and you run quietly. That's my question. Do you listen to music when you run? Because, for example, I don't, and I usually frowned upon by my friends who kind of consider it to be a very, essential part of running. But I don't do that, because since I have been running, I'm not used to having earphones in my ear. So it kind of acts as a hindrance to me if I have, like my earphones plugged in. So do you listen to songs? Do you listen to music when you're running? Is that something that you do?
No, I don't even carry my phone when I run.
Yeah,
No music players, nothing on the sort. And
yeah,
especially when you run in nature, if you can listen to stuff around, right?
true, true.
Um, Definitely adds to your appreciation for nature. So yeah, I'm very old school in that sense. Like
Yeah,
my coach doesn't listen to any music, but I've
yeah,
listened to podcasts and music on the run,
yeah,
especially when I know I'm running on the same loop or something and there's not much that will change. But even
yeah,
then, old school runners, I've run like up to 10-15 miles without a watch.
yeah,
So you're pretty much listening to your body, right? How do you tell effort?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, fair
so no
enough. Yeah.
music. Yeah,
That's something that I relate to because it's very weird, but and I sent you a screenshot of it. I tried running a marathon in my building recently,
right.
and at one point, I just started feeling that even the watch which I wear to record my time was kind of, was just bogging me. So I just took it off and I kept it at one side. I just can't run with my phone. It just becomes like an extra task for me. So I completely relate to what you just said, and
Yeah,
yeah, coming back to the previous point about favorite marathon spots, and you mentioned London and New York for races that you would want to run in at
yeah,
some point in the future. So is there a wish list, Dharmendra? As in, is there a wish list of, say, marathons that you would want to run? I have a very
yeah.
weird wish list item. I will tell you about it when you finish.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
So London and New York, essentially to try and make each of the big marathons, right? London,
yeah,
New York, Chicago, and Tokyo,
yeah,
and more Tokyo than maybe Chicago, for example. My
yeah.
brother went to school in Chicago. He studied there
Okay,
for like 6 years. So
okay.
and I have run in Chicago. It's a beautiful place to run.
Yeah,
Yeah. So those three races are the ones I haven't done amongst. Actually, I haven't done four races, right? Chicago, Tokyo, London, and New York.
yeah,
Along with Boston and New York, Boston and Berlin, they make up the world marathon major. So I would
yeah.
like to run those four. I generally want to run in Japan more than anything else because after the US, Japan is the most running crazy country, right?
True,
Right.
true.
I've heard people tell me that next to sumo wrestlers, runners get the most amount of respect from the person on the street, right?
True,
So if you like
true.
seriously fast, say you run Boston, so you have what we call street cred, right?
Yeah.
So you get some snob value in general. So yeah,
The
Japan in
most
particular, any race in Japan, basically,
I would
maybe
recommend a
the Mount
very
Fuji marathon.
yeah, fair enough. I would recommend on that topic, on that note, rather, I would recommend a place for you to visit, no, for nothing else, but just to see the running culture, because I've never seen that big a proportion of the population running at the same time every day. Is this country called Brunei Darussalam in
Yeah, yeah,
East Asia? Yeah, and it's crazy, man. But I think in the evening, pretty much everyone's running, and then everyone's drinking at the night. But it's this it's this lifestyle that they have where they would burn off and then get the calories back in the night. But everyone's running, man, irrespective of age, irrespective of where you are, big city, small city, did not matter. Pretty much everyone in the evening runs, and like families run together. So it's quite inspiring. Because you mentioned Japan, and because of the culture that exists, I thought I would drop in. You can read about it, guys. If you're seeing this as well, if you want to read about Brunei Darussalam's running culture, it's quite intriguing. Uh,
yeah.
my
I'll
pers
add it to the wish list.
Yeah, I mean, at least it would be fun to read about. So
Yeah,
yeah, my wish list item is Pyongyang Marathon, because I read about two Olympic athletes who managed to go over there, and then I posted that link on Facebook, and a friend of mine from IIT Delhi wrote that he ran that marathon as well. And apparently,
obviously.
if you manage to get an entry over there, then you go to North Korea, and you don't just go to North Korea, you're a state guest and you manage to run a marathon. So I think that's my only chance of visiting that country. So should be fun.
Yeah, yeah. So North Korea, I think they probably don't suspect Indians as much, right? So it may be
Yeah,
not so difficult for us as compared to the
for
Westerners. So
true.
yeah, I'll add that. So it's interesting you mentioned Pyongyang, right? There's
Yeah.
this book by a cartoonist.
Okay.
I'm sure it's a graphic novel which is
Okay.
called Pyongyang.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
never heard of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so guideline, right? Guideline. So yeah, so it's been an object of
Yeah,
interest,
yeah,
uh, to go and visit that country because
yeah,
of the way it's portrayed.
yeah.
But yeah, it's one of the difficult things to do, right?
It is. It's not an. It's a more than qualifying for that marathon. It's about qualifying to
The
enter that
logistics.
country. Yeah, the logistics of it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but yeah, it
yeah.
should
So I'll
be.
add both Brunei and Pyongyang to my list.
Yeah, I'm not adding more to that list, but I'm just suggesting places that I've heard of. So, might be fun. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. The US marathon is actually pretty easy to run in the sense that unless you live in the same country, right?
Yeah.
Practically the only path to getting there, even if you're a very fast runner, is to run it as a tourist. Like
True.
they sell entries coupled with race stay and all that for about $1,800. So if you want to
Okay.
run New York, that's
Yeah.
practically the only way to get in for somebody who doesn't live in the US.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Coming
you just have
back.
to be in shape to run.
Yeah.
Sure. Carry on.
Finishes. Coming back to your running, and this is my final section. But I also noticed that you have run much more than a marathon. You've run ultra marathons. You've run much longer distances. Is
Yes.
that more in the head? Then does it become more about the head than the body? I mean,
Yeah, yeah. See, actually, I'm not very fast as a runner, right? Even the
yeah,
marathon distance is mostly in the head, right?
yeah,
You just have to ensure you get into some shape so that you don't get injured more than anything else, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, I mean, in my entire whatever 20 years of running, right? I can
yeah,
count the number of experience where you run in sheer flow, right? Where that day you
yeah,
can just feel like no effort
yeah,
was involved.
yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, the ultra marathons, especially for amateurs, is completely readying the mind. I've run, so there's a completely beautiful race which unfortunately because of the last year in particular hasn't happened. It's
yeah.
called the Malnad Ultra, which is running the coffee estates of Chikmagalur,
Oh wow.
right?
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, so I would have added that to that list of destination races if you had
yeah,
talked about distance beyond marathon, right?
yeah,
It's and Chikmagalur is amongst the most beautiful parts of Karnataka and I guess by extension India. Very
yeah,
green and up and down, and the coffee estates are spectacular just by sight.
yeah.
And so I've run up to 80K
Wow.
in that event. So I ran 50K in the inaugural year. So they have 50K, 80K, and 110K. So I've
Yeah,
run 80K. So the goal is to go run 110K someday. It's completely about the mind because you're
yeah,
never running so fast that for at least 80K is going to take you say about 10 hours. You're
yeah,
never going to run so fast that you're going to get exhausted, right? 8 kilometers
yeah.
per hour for somebody who runs say 3 hours 10 minutes of a marathon is not very fast, and
True.
but the terrain is super challenging, so
Yeah,
you're going to be challenged much of the time, but mentally it's yeah, more than twice as tough as a marathon.
I'm sure. I'm
So
sure.
you train. Yeah,
Yeah, you'd perhaps train a few years before trying to attempt 80K. And
yeah, it depends on your base shape. Like you could just step out and run, right? If you
yeah,
just did the mileage 3 4 months you'd be ready to run, you're in good shape.
true, true.
But the older you get, the harder it gets to train physically.
Yeah,
Mentally obviously, right, you've been through other experiences in life, so you have
yeah,
there's a lot you learn from just life itself which you can deploy in the race.
true, true. Thank you so much, Dharmin. That was very, very insightful listening to you, and was
Yeah,
brilliant catching up in general. I hope you managed to run all the other marathons in that list that you just shared with me, your wish list. And thank you so much again. I would catch
yeah,
up very soon with you. I'd pester you more with messages, ask you about my own timings. But
sure.
thank you so much for now. Thank you, Dharmendra.
Yeah, thank you, Aniket.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
quite a pleasure. And I hope you do, interview a lot of people across sports. I've seen the others that
Yes.
you've done in the series. It's
Yeah.
always great fun to, sit and learn.
Yeah.
The day you send me that, I was listening to the one with Amit Sinha. It's
Yeah.
great fun. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I hope you do a lot more of that. Good luck with that. Thank you.
I really, as in, people who are, and as I mentioned before, I've worked in sports for a while now, but I'm intrinsically a sports fan. I don't remember the last time I picked up a newspaper and read anything beyond the sports pages or switched on the TV and went beyond the sports channels. So I would love to talk to more sports fans who, because the moment you work in it, then it becomes more like work and you start talking about it professionally. But I love this aspect where people do things just to make themselves happy. And it's very
Yeah.
enlightening talking to people like you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Aniket. Thank you for the
Thank
opportunity.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.